In the interim, the Met conducted a fourth inquiry led by DCS David Cook. However, the fourth investigation, which the family described as the first honest investigation into the murder, gathered insufficient evidence to prosecute Rees, Fillery and 3 other men for the murder. Hazel Blears then refused the family's request for a judicial inquiry. In 2006, a fifth investigation began under AC John Yates. This happened out of the blue after Alistair Morgan had initially approached the Met Police Authority Chairman Len Duval. He had ordered the Commissioner to present his own report on the case prior to this. The family were initially deeply sceptical of the new Yates investigation. Devastatingly, after 5 years, the case again collapsed last year. The Morgan family solicitors have said that this was under the weight of the previous corruption. The accused, Jonathan Rees, Fillery and the Vian brothers, were ultimately acquitted because the defence would not have had access to all the documents in the case. The Metropolitan Police repeatedly mislaid crates of evidence due to the sheer number of documents the case had generated. Mr. Justice Madison also ruled that the Supergrass witnesses had been mishandled. I now turn to the situation the family find themselves in now. Since the collapse of the prosecution, the Met have publicly admitted corruption in the first inquiry. The family believe this corruption had an impact on the second, third, fourth and fifth inquiry. But what the family didn't know during any of the 5 investigations is the extent to which the relationship between News International, private investigators and the police had such an impact on the conduct of this inquiry. Jonathan Rees and Sid Fillery were at the corrupt nexus of private investigators, police officers and journalists at News of the World. Through the hacking scandal, we now know Southern Investigations became the hub of a web of police and media contacts involving the illegal theft and disclosure of information obtained through Rees and Fillery's corrupted contacts. Southern Investigations sold information to many newspapers during the 1990s, but we think exclusively to News International after Rees was released from jail in 2005. The main conduit at News International was Alex Maranchek, chief crime reporter for News of the World and later the paper's Irish editor. I want to focus the Minister's attention on Maranchek in particular. Rees and Maranchek had a relationship that was so close they both registered companies at the same address in Thornton Heath. Abbey Cover, established by Rees and his colleagues from News International Greg Muskew, was registered at the same address as Southern Investigations, run by Rees and Fillery. Rees's confirmed links with Maranchek take the murder of Daniel Morgan to a new level. It is important to remember that in the days before the murder, Daniel's family believed he was on the verge of exposing huge police corruption. This was confirmed by Brian Madigan, Daniel's former employer, in a statement in May 1987, in which he said he believed Daniel was about to sell a story to a newspaper. In a second later statement, Madigan said he believed this paper to be News of the World and the contact to be Alex Maranchek, who, until recently, still worked for the paper. BBC Radio 4's report programme has also confirmed that it has seen evidence suggesting that a week before the murder, Daniel was about to take a story exposing police corruption to Maranchek and was promised a payment of £40,000. We also know from the investigative reporting of Nick Davis at The Guardian that Southern Investigations paid the debts of Alex Maranchek. As part of the third failed investigation, Operation Nigeria was launched. This included the surveillance of Southern Investigations between May and September 1999 and was run by the Metropolitan Police's Anti-Corruption Squad, CIB3. They placed a bug in the officers of Southern Investigations that yielded evidence that convicted Rees for a serious but unrelated crime. Police surveillance shows frequent contact between Rees and Maranchek. I understand that the tapes made by the bug have not all been transcribed. If they were to be, they would yield more collusion, perhaps criminal in nature, between News International and Jonathan Rees. I hope the Minister asks the police if this process is underway. When Rees came out of jail, he was rehired by News of the World, then edited by Andy Coulson. Rees also founded a company called Pure Energy, which Maranchek was involved in. The police hold evidence to suggest that Rees discussed the use of Trojan devices with his associate, Sid Fillery. He was an associate of Philip Campbell-Smith, who received a custodial sentence on Monday for a crime related to blagging. Campbell-Smith is a former Army intelligence officer. I'll say no more on Campbell-Smith, as I don't want to prejudice the Operation Chiletta inquiry. But I hope I've demonstrated to the Minister a close association between Rees and Maranchek. And here's now why I think the Metropolitan Police cannot be used in any further investigations. Yesterday, the Leveson inquiry heard a startling revelation that Alex Maranchek, a close business associate of Jonathan Rees, then the prime suspect in a murder case, chose to put DCI David Cook and his family under close covert surveillance. The person who was investigating a murder was put under close surveillance by a close business associate of the man he was investigating. This was raised in 2002 with Rebecca Brooks, the then editor of News of the World. I'd just like the Minister to imagine what his response would have been to that information. A journalist employee tried to undermine the murder investigation of his close associate. Rupert Murdoch claims that News International takes a zero tolerance to wrongdoing. Far from launching a wide-scale inquiry to investigate wrongdoing, however, Rebecca Brooks promoted Alex Maranchek to the editor's job of News of the World in Ireland. It gets worse. Last year, Mr. Cook's then wife, Jackie Hames, discovered her records appeared in the evidence file of Glenmore Care. The records showed information that she believes can only have been obtained from her private police records. Whilst DCI Cook was investigating a murder, his colleagues in another part of the Met were in receipt of evidence that a close associate of his suspect was illegally targeting him. Did Andy Heyman, the then head of the hacking inquiry, who also happened to be in charge of the fourth investigation into Daniel's murder, ensure that his colleagues were informed about this? No. When he retired early from the Met, Andy Heyman became a paid contributor to News International. That's not right. For months, the Yard took no action. Why not? Why were they not willing to pursue what appears to be a clear attempt to interfere with the murder inquiry of Daniel Morgan? It has been reported by The Guardian that the reason no action was taken by Scotland Yard was so as not to embarrass the Met with newspapers. It gets worse. I would like the Minister to request to see all the intelligence reports submitted about Alex Maranchek. I believe the Met are sitting on an intelligence report from late 2002 that claims a police contact overheard Maranchek claim he was paying the relatives of police officers in Cambridgeshire for information about the Soham murders. These are allegations that, as far as we know, have not been investigated. I don't know whether these intelligence reports are accurate, but I do know that Alex Maranchek was involved in writing stories about how the Manchester United tops of those young girls were found. I also believe that at least one of the Soham parents appears in the evidence file of Glenmore Care. The Met Police failed to investigate both leads when reported in 2002 and 2006. I think Rupert Murdoch owes the Morgan family an apology. And I don't think he's made his last apology to the grieving parents of murdered children. Mr. Betts, Daniel's family will never see his murderer brought to justice. Corruption at the Metropolitan Police has ensured that. But the Minister has it in his power to see that they get an explanation as to the failure. He can only do this if the next investigation has their confidence. They seek a judge-led inquiry into the police's handling of this murder because they've lost confidence in the police. Under the circumstances, wouldn't anyone?
Minister.